Hey, it's Dr. Linda Davis. Today I want to walk through problem 7 in your CIS 101 booklet. And on this particular one, we want to finish with it looking like a completed Word document. That's basically a report. And in this particular problem, we are analyzing employee hours over a 2-month time span. And for this finished one, which is a Word document, we want to have letterhead. So use those letterhead skills you learned from in test 2. We want to have our memo format going on. Make sure you tab in there. We have our table put in here. We have the graph brought over as well into Word. We've obviously done the table and the graph in Excel first, and I'll show you that in just a minute. And then we want to finish up with our recommendation paragraph at the bottom, which follows a certain 4-step process on that analysis or recommendation paragraph. Let's switch over to Excel. The Excel sheet that we pulled the table and the graph from looks like this. Obviously we have our weeks divided into 8 weeks because it's over a 2-month period, and we are given some initial values in the problem, like harvesting starts off at 2,300 hours, and then harvesting will decrease 25% per week that goes by. That's why you see each value as we descend to get 25% smaller, and that's just using the correct formula underneath the value you were given. So you're given 2,300 hours and you just plant that in there, and then in the cell below, that's where you insert your formula that looks at 2,300 hours and then uses the percentage decrease formula to come up with the new value for week 2. And then you're going to drag that down with the skinny plus so that each week shows 25% less. The opposite thing's going on in the spray column. We start off with the initial amount given in the problem of 400 hours, and then it's going to increase by 20% each week. So we will build the formula in the second cell, keeping just the given amount in the first cell under spray. So 400 goes to 480. That's a 20% increase. And then once we have the formula correct, we can drag the formula down with the skinny plus. And for all 8 weeks, you'll show a rising 20% amount as each week goes by. All right, in the herbicide column, the problem states that we are to take 70% of whatever's going on in the spray column. And this is the spray column next door. So that formula, you don't have a starting amount really, you just have to go ahead and put the formula in that reflects 70% of whatever's going on in the spray column. So let me hit F2 and show you that formula there. Otherwise, obviously the formula's up here as well. So that shows you that you're taking 70% of whatever's going on in D7, which is the first spray value for week 1. Okay. Once you get that set, then you can just simply drag that formula down with the skinny plus all the way down, and for each week. And as you can see, it should, because spray is rising, so should herbicide hours. Okay. Now, fertilizer hours, that is also one of those where you're taking a percentage of another cell. So this one's 55% of whatever's going on in the spray column. So for week 1, we want to take 55% of 400 is basically what it breaks down to being, which gives you 220. And you can see the formula there, or I can hit F2 on my keyboard and you can see the formula there as well. Now, again, once you get that formula in place, you can drag it down all the way to week 8 and you can see those values. Now, the totals, I have a total column of numbers, and I have a total for actually each column down here. I total it up, and I'm totaling up each row up here. Those are simple sum functions, so you're just using the sum function, as you can see here. If I hit F2, you can see what the formula is. I'm adding across on these, C7 all the way to F7 to get a total of 3,200 for that first week of hours. And then once that formula, again, is in place, you can get the skinny plus and drag that all the way down so that you get a total hours for each week. because that's important. You need that information to be able to do the percent of total column that's coming up. So our grand total of hours is 23,128. And our adding up the columns, again, just a simple sum function. If I click on that total for harvesting, you can see that's the formula up there, and that's the value that it comes up with it once it adds all of these values up. And if I hit F2, you can see that's the same formula setting there. And then percent of total, that's an important one to know how to do. It's just basically asking what percent of week 1 makes up the entire total of 100%. So what part is 3,200 of 23,128? And the answer is 13.8%. So for your formula, you can see it there up in the formula bar. If I hit F2, you can see that I've got maybe some extra little symbols in there. Equals G7 divided by G15 is the basic formula, and that will be true of week 1. You may notice I have dollar signs typed in there, and that's to keep that particular cell firm and fixed on that particular value. G15 is down here. That's that grand total amount. And when I drag down, I don't want it skipping down to these blank cells. So that's why I put $G, $15, and that's to keep it what I like to call sticky, which means it sticks on that cell and it doesn't, even when you drag, it does not go beyond that cell because you need it to stay there. So basically you're taking the part, divide it by the whole, and that gives you a percentage amount. Now you will have to format this for a percentage, so you have to use your format tool to have that show up the way you want to. So let me go to home, and there's your percent tool there. You can pick percentage there. I kind of like this one just because, or the more fully expanded one. So I can select percentage, and I can set how many decimal places I want it to show. I need it to show probably 1 or 2 decimal places there, probably 2, even though I've just got that set on the first one. So let me drag that down again and let it expand out to 2 decimal places. Okay, either way, it's going to end up to be 100% here, and that completes the table, except for obviously all the formatting, the proper formatting you need to do. So pay attention to what's shaded, which way your column headings are aligned. They should align, column headings should align over your values underneath. So if it's numbers, all the column headings should align to the right, like numbers do. Okay, so the graph. This is a stacked column graph. It's like your bar graph, just a little more detail involved. So on this one, we want to make sure, first of all, that we select the right data to produce the right kind of graph. Now, this has got detailed information in it, which tells me that I can select the word week in the column heading and all my weeks, but no total data on this one because I need individual data. I'm going to highlight this all the way over till I get all 4 tasks and their hours highlighted. But remember, no totals. So no totals and highlighted here, no totals highlighted down at the bottom either. And then I just need to go up to insert, and you have your chart area. Now this is going to be a bar, or like I said, I'm sorry, a 2D column graph. 2D column graph or 3D column graph, but you don't want the first one. You need details. Details means you need the second one. Okay, the second one takes each amount of hours and makes it part of the column. So either 2D column, it's the second one over, or 3D column, it's the second one over. You can see the preview it gives you. So either one that you fancy, doesn't matter to me. And so once you pick that, there it is initially. And I'm just going to drag it down below the one I've already finished, just to give you an idea of what it should look like. So let me put it there. Obviously it's got missing parts and pieces. And drag it like a picture to make it from the corners and make it as big as your screen most likely works. I may not be totally at 100% zoom here, but anyway, that's kind of what it starts out looking like. And notice it tells you what each color stands for. And notice that it's got the hours as the y-axis. And yes, you do need to identify, even though this x-axis is identified already with the y-axis, you've got to actually put in hours there. So I just wanted to give you a good rundown on what it should look like before we get started. All right, so and on hours, and chart title obviously needs to be looked into, and get rid of the grid lines, and you're going to put in, you know, a little text box up here so you can point out what the answer is, because the answer that they're looking for is just tell us what week has the least amount of hours worked, because you're going to probably shut down the next year when this time period comes up. You're going to shut down that particular week and just make everybody take a vacay that week. Okay, now starting from scratch, that probably needs to be a whole nother video.